let's chant the Mangala Charan as we remember it without looking if we can. Om Ganatamarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshu Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamayam Tatati Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagutatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savututam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishavikamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavanishwari Vishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vantakalva Trubhascha Kripa Sindhu Behevaja Padidnam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shmati Bhakti Vedanta Swanti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vachalini Nivasisha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satari Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so Mother Sahachari, you can begin. We're going into chapter 2, text 18.
Yeah, thank you. Antavanta imedeha nityasyokta sarirana anasino prameyasyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Purport. The material body is perishable by nature. It may perish immediately, or it may do so after 100 years. It is a question of time only. There is no chance of maintaining it indefinitely. But the spirit soul is so minute that it cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed. As mentioned in the previous verse, it is so small that no one can have an idea how to measure its dimension. So from both viewpoints, there is no cause of lamentation, because the living entity, as he is cannot be killed, nor can the material body be saved for any length of time or permanently protected. The minute particle of the whole spirit acquires this material body according to his work, and therefore observance of religious principles should be utilized. In the Vedanta Sutras, the living entity is qualified as light because he is part and parcel of the supreme light. As sunlight maintains the entire universe, so the light of the soul maintains this material body. As soon as the spirit soul is out of this material body, the body begins to decompose. Therefore, it is the spirit soul which maintains this body. The body itself is unimportant. Arjuna was advised to fight and not sacrifice the cause of religion for material bodily considerations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So here we go to a similar subject we was speaking about last week. Yeah, was it last week? Yeah. Any doubts about reincarnation? I'm asking everyone who's 100% convinced in the fact. But here, Krishna speaking more on to Arjuna about the science of the soul. And particularly it's written here in a commentary that this particular verse is refuting or reversing Arjuna's argument or reason for not fighting, is that he wanted to save his family members from being harmed or from dying. That was one of his reasons that he put forth. But actually, everyone's going to die anyway. That's more or less what Krishna is saying here. Yeah, the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, Arjuna, you may as well fight. Yeah. So that includes us as well. At some point, the body which we're sitting in is going to come to an end. 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, but our time will come. Yeah. And this part here, we've mentioned, well, I say this part here, I'm looking at my screen, I'm looking at the purple, but the part where does it say here? Yeah, in the Vedanta Sutra, just towards the end of the purple, the living entity is qualified as light because he is part and parcel of the supreme light. As sunlight maintains the entire universe, so the light of the soul maintains this material body. Yeah. So the soul is actually very powerful. The fact that, as we understand from Bhagavad Gita, how small it is in dimension, it actually pervades the whole body and emanates the body, and all the organs and all the consciousness and all the organs and everything about the body functions because of this minute or this jiva that's present within the body. That's why it's compared to just like the sun. It's a nice example. Just like the sun is situated in one place in the universe, but it spreads its heat and subsequent influence throughout that whole universe. So if we can look at the body like a universe and the soul that's situated within a heart, 100,000 size of a tip of a hair, it spreads its influence throughout the whole body. And then what happens when the soul leaves? Anyone can say what happens when the soul leaves?
Decomposes.
Yeah. So therefore you have to, in one sense, we treat it with, we treat the passing of relatives and persons we know, we treat it with respect. But at the same time, if you think about it, when someone dies, then you have to decide what to do with the body. We're going to burn it, we're going to bury it, or we're going to throw it in the Ganges, as in what I do in India. It's called Jal Samadhi, when someone gets, yeah. So what we're going to, becomes a bit of an embarrassment. Uncle George is dead, he's gone. So where can we burn the body? Where can we, and you have to burn it quite quickly, otherwise what happens? It starts to decompose. Yeah. I guess, we don't treat, if someone passes away, we should be respectful. We shouldn't kind of speak in this way exactly. But actually, that's what's going on. Yeah, you have to, find an undertaker to do something with the body. Someone has to come and collect it. And then someone's got, anyway, I won't go too much into it, but I guess when we die, it's something to perhaps contemplate, or you can contemplate if you want, but when we die, someone's going to be in our house sorting out all our stuff and throwing a lot of it in the bin. Whoever one of our relative daughters or children are going to come to our house, they're going to sort out this, sort out that, and they're probably going to take most of your clothes to the charity shop. And if you've got lots of saris, they'll take your saris to the temple. Yeah, this is practically speaking. I had that experience when my father left the world. I had lots to manage, lots to manage, all his stuff and all things like that. And the way, and the world will go on without us. I'm sure we already know that. When we die, then our funeral, there will be some people will be too busy to come to our funeral. It's the way of life. You know, the way it goes. The sun will rise again after we die. The moon will rise and the world will go on, you know, we'll be left behind. Hopefully, and our destination will be auspicious. That's the idea, is that we're preparing ourselves for an auspicious next birth. If not with Krishna, then at least with devotees of Krishna. Yeah, that's what we pray for. And that's why, yeah, that's what we practice and pray for. Anyway, any comments upon that? Perhaps painting a graphic picture. Yeah.
I got funny throat, but I'm going to ask you a question. You know,
yeah,
it's still funny. You know, the material body is made of earth, water, fire, ether, whatever, and it's going to go into the earth, right? Why do we still, like you just said, respect the dead body? The soul is what we respect, and the soul's left. Why do we still do all the kriyas, whatever, for the body?
Yeah. Well, it just, well, yeah, you'll find it there in most cultures. Have this. They have some form of funeral, whatever it may be, Hindu, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, whatever it may be. Even, believe it or not, atheistic people or humanists have such ceremonies they do. Completely godless, and that's another point. But it's to help the family members. It's to help the relatives come to terms with the closure. Yeah, because it's quite sudden when someone dies. It can be quite sudden. Sometimes it may not be. So these things like funerals and remembrances and gathering at someone's house, it all helps the grieving process. It helps the grieving process, and it helps everyone come to terms with it. Yeah, that's why the battle Kurukshetra mentioned before, at the end, there was thousands of Brahmins doing the last rites for all the slain soldiers, you know, saying prayers, etc. So in answer to your question, that's why it's there in most cultures. Yeah, because you can imagine it will be a little bit too, although from the point I was speaking about Atma Tattva, we understand the, you know, we have to decide where, you know, what we can do with the body, you know, burn it or bury it. But actually, if we actually did that and approached it like that, if someone left the world, there was no funeral, no nothing, and we just took the body to the local dump and threw it in the rubbish, that wouldn't be showing too much respect for the person who just died. And we probably might have terms, I could say, you know, most people wouldn't do that type of thing. You're going to leave it. Some respect should be there. I mean, that's why it's a tragedy, and you're not going to go right into it, but in Ukraine, you know, in the war that's going on there, you get some people volunteering to try and find the bodies and give them a half decent, you know, do something respectful, you know. Anyway, but beyond all of that, there's the soul which never dies. This is perhaps the part we want to focus on. Actually, there is no death for the soul. Yeah, death is something we experience in the human realm, in the relative realm. So there's all types of culture and institution that goes along with it. But actually, the soul's eternal. So therefore, Arjuna, you should fight. Yeah. All right, did that help, Mother? Did it?
And then another thing, why does the soul hang around to try and get back into the body?
Oh, why does the soul? Well, can anyone answer that? Why does the soul sometimes hang around?
Because of our karma.
Attachment to the body.
Yeah, Nanda Vallabhi saying attachment. Yeah, and also our karma. But let's. Sorry, Manomohini, Mother?
Is it because of our karma?
Well, no, I think it's more the side of attachment. Because we refuse to accept the inevitable. And that's why often death can be very traumatic, especially for someone who has no Atma Tattva, that they refuse to come to terms with it. They refuse to accept what's happening. They refuse, or they cannot digest or come to terms with the fact that material nature or their terminate body is coming to an end. So that's another reason why in Eastern culture the body is burned and it's not buried, because graveyards have a reputation of having a few ghosts hanging around. Can you imagine some people they're so attached, then they may be hanging around that body even it gets put in the ground. But if the body's burned, there ain't nothing else, there ain't much to hang around for. The body's been burned, it's just in ashes. So that's why it's good for us to develop some level of detachment, so that we can, we can, when we're told to leave, when it becomes obvious that we have to leave, then we go along with it. We just go along with it, and we completely take shelter of Krishna. We're not fearful. We're not doubtful, and we're not fearful. And that's what our practice is helping us to come to in our development of Krishna consciousness, to become free of fear. So at that stage, we can go along with Krishna's plan. Yeah. Does that help? Is that anybody else on that? Yeah.
Because I heard a phrase like someone said, well, I don't want to go anywhere. And the other person said, but you can't live here. So you got to go somewhere. Like the body.
Yeah, you got yeah. Well, you got to, that's right. It's also dangerous as well. We hear, I think Purport was sometimes a law to this, is that when someone may die and they're so attached to their surroundings that they may take birth as a dog in that same house, or a mouse or a rat. Yeah. So yeah. So
Hare Krishna, is that also true? It's because of the family we can stay here. Because when we die, also, let's say if the family is around, and instead of celebrating and being happy, you got out from the body and you can go back home. Instead, they will cry and they will lament and they will just keep the soul here instead of releasing it and letting it go more easy.
No, once the soul's left, they can cry all they want. There's nothing going to bring that soul back. But if before that, for instance, if one still has strong attachment to one's family members, then that could be a cause for taking birth again. Like even it's interesting, the prayers of Queen Kunti. Now her family members happen to be devotees, but because of this principle, because of this aspect of she just wants to be focused on Krishna, she actually prays that for Krishna to sever her relationship with her family members, although they're devotees, to highlight this point that she just wants her consciousness to be absorbed in Krishna. So that's so you can understand it's kind of, it should be, now it doesn't mean from this point on we should ignore our family members and have the consciousness that we want nothing to do with them because it might bring us back in the next life. Then that's not so good. So it should be a natural internal development of detachment. So you can still move around family members, you can still take the grandchildren on your lap or whatever, play around the grandkids. You can still moving, you're still acting, but within you have a deep, you have a level of knowledge and subsequent realization that at some point I have to go. You know, I'm not going to be here all the time. My grandchildren are not going to, you know, I'm not going to see my grandchildren get married. You know, so that we have the internal kind of grounding. You know? But we still show love and affection. Yeah, but we understand these. Oh, we understand what's happening or what the material world is about. All right. Any other questions or comments on this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada. I just
Yes,
wanted
please,
to,
Mother.
in addition to
Varsha, you know
Mother.
her, Mother Prabhu. She's just
Hare
joined
Krishna,
for the
Bhagavad.
first time.
Just
She
joining
comes-
for the first time. Welcome.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare
In
Krishna.
addition, yeah,
Your voice is breaking up a bit.
can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yes, now I can.
Yeah. In addition to Mother Chandravali's question, what happens
Yeah.
to the soul of the ghost, you know, who commits suicide and become a ghost or something like that? What happens to the soul of that?
The exact details I don't know, but it's explained in a sastra called the Garuda Purana. In the Garuda Purana, details are given there, and that's why often the Shraddha ceremony is recommended, as we might have heard, is to help persons who die suddenly or those who say may be sinful, and it's to assist them in getting a gross body. Yeah, and there's quite some details about that. Now, our Shraddha ceremony is, our Vaishnav Shraddha ceremony is quite simple. Basically, we feed Vaishnavas, you know, on behalf of the person who's left. But exactly what happens to them, I cannot give any more details without looking at the Garuda Purana. Exactly how long they stay in the ghost body, and I'm pretty sure that Lord Shiva's got something to do with it. As we know, he's very merciful to such beings. But how that mercy, how they get his association, and how long they stay in a subtle body, I don't know those details. It's in the Garuda Purana. Perhaps if I remember, because I've got it somewhere on my computer, perhaps out of interest, I have a little look, see if I can find out something. All right, so sorry, Mother, cannot answer it in detail, but
No problem, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. All right, so we read another verse? Text 19. Let's see, hands up there. I saw Mother Lavanga Latika. You like to read? See your hand up there.
Yeah, thanks. Text 19. Yaenam viti hantaram yaschanam manyate hatam ubotovana. Sorry, my light isn't very good. Sorry, one sec.
Okay.
Ubotovana vijanito nayam hanti nahanyate. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge, for the self slays not, nor is slain. Purport. When an embodied living entity is hurt by fatal weapons, it is to be known that the living entity within the body is not killed. The spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapons, as will be evident from subsequent verses. Nor is the living entity killable because of his spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is ma him syat sarvabhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as by the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any any immediate comments or questions about this?
The
So
soul
he's
is,
sorry.
the soul is eternal.
Yeah, and yeah, the soul is eternal. So no one has ever killed anyone. This is what Krishna is
That's
saying.
what I was thinking. I was thinking,
Yeah.
so what are murderers in prison for? Because they haven't killed anyone, because you can't actually, the living entity is not the slayer, nor he who thinks it's
Yeah.
slain is in knowledge. So even
Yes.
people who have been killed,
Oh,
it says, if you
But-
think the body is, if you think the person has been killed, you're not in knowledge, because it's just the body, and the body's
Yeah,
always
so-
dead.
Yeah, so you might imagine the scene. If someone kills someone and then they're in court and they're standing in their own defense and they start quoting Bhagavad Gita. Everyone in this courtroom, you're all ignorant. You do not know the difference between the soul and the body. Bhagavad Gita here says there's no death for the soul. But we see it doesn't work like that. And the Prabhupada is reminding us, and he's directing us to the Vedas, yeah, to cause someone, or to be, yeah, for someone, if someone kills someone, then they are also, according to the Vedic, they are to be killed themselves. So there is, okay, the soul's eternal, but human society cannot function like animals. Yeah, human society should be regulated, and regulated by the Vedas. So therefore, it's a sin to take someone else's life. Although in actuality, you cannot do that if you look at it from the point of Sankhya, and you really get into it. The soul's eternal, but as Prabhupada is saying here, one should never commit violence to anyone. Yeah. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Yeah. No one, if anyone needlessly kills someone and then proclaims that the soul is eternal, that person, what could we say, what word is, I was thinking of a word, that person is to irrehensible. I can't think of the word now. That person should be punished, basically. Any questions on this, or except if it's done on the principle of religion? Now that's a whole discussion itself.
Modi
Which not
Prabhu.
everyone. Yes, please.
So then it's the same for the people who eat meat. They are, even if they don't kill the animal, still they are part of the crime, because they are complice to the ones who killed. So then they will be killed also, isn't it?
Yeah. Can anyone give more details on that? What model?
So
Mongo's
let's say
saying?
people
Prabhupada
go
mentions.
to the shop. People
Yeah,
go to
you've
the
got it.
shop, buy
Model Yeah.
I heard that in the chain, everybody gets the karma. The person cooks,
That's it.
eats,
Yeah.
every one of them gets the same karma.
Yeah. Model Mangalpur, did you already know that, or did you just, because Prabhupada says exactly what you're saying there. He says that everyone involved is, what's the word if someone's involved in a murder? They are an accomplice.
But do they get the same karma, Prabhu? Do they get the same karma? Same
Do they get the
result?
same, exactly the same karma?
Is it not depend on the consciousness, and obviously it was part of a gruesome activity?
No.
I would, can anyone perhaps comment on that? Mother Nanda Vallabhi is asking an interesting question. Say, along this line, you've got the person who killed, the person, say, who then transported the dead animal, the person who packed it, the person who put the price on it, the person who bought it, the person who cooked it. Do they
I
all
was
get
thinking,
exactly the same karma?
as far as I understand, Prabhu, yes.
Nitai Mata, yes.
And somebody can serve. You say, okay, my family is eating. You serve, no. Still, you get it because you served the person had it.
Yeah, so like you're saying that the person who eats it gets the same karma as the person who's originally slaughtered the animal.
Who slaughtered, who served, who cooked, who wanted any. That is why I think in our society very clearly says, okay, even don't live in such house because somewhere or the other you may land up in doing something without unknowingly.
All right, so
Yeah,
yeah,
that is another question. When people in the society today, especially younger generation, they don't even know, whether they should be killing to eat. It just comes in packets for them in the supermarket. They're buying and they're eating. And obviously somebody else is doing everything for them and they're buying it. How much karma are they going to get for that?
yeah. So the same question. So
Yeah.
Nitai Mata, I think she's indicating from that everyone gets exactly the same amount of karma. Now, have you read that somewhere, Nitai Mata?
I heard it.
Yeah,
Because if you don't know, that's your ignorance. You got to know. Even the kids, some kids say it's okay. Potatoes are coming from Tesco's. They don't know. So, but that even in school, it goes in the TV sometime explaining. That is why we are there to educate the people.
Yeah.
That's a difference.
Now, yeah. Now I tend to, if I remember, unfortunately, I cannot think of the exact verse of Purport, but I seem to remember where Prabhupada explains that actually, if it depends, there is a difference in the dealing out of the specific karma. That's the result. I say definitely the person who slaughters, what I'm saying, the person who slaughters is going to get the most karma. Yeah. Now, exactly to what degree it's meted out down along the line, that I'm not sure. Everyone is culpable. Everyone is involved. Just like if someone, for instance, if there's a crime, if someone commits a murder, then according to the involvement in that murder scene or in that crime from different accomplices, if someone's in full knowledge of the murder taking part, they are going to get more punished. Now, if someone without full knowledge that there was going to be a murder somehow aided and abetted the person without them knowing, they're going to get less of a punishment, although they may still get some punishment. But if they're in ignorance, or they plead ignorance, and it's proved that they were not in knowledge of exactly of what was happening. So that's there, but still, having said that, what Nitai Mata is mentioning there as well, the human form of life, we're supposed to be responsible and understand how to act as humans. So if we don't act accordingly, we're still going to be culpable of some type of reaction. But it will be different than a person who's actually right at the top of the line and slaughtering the animal, mercilessly slaughtering the animal. So definitely all the persons involved are going to get karma. For sure. I mean, and we're painting quite a bleak picture, because basically, like today, I was just out in Covent Garden, and where I walk past this restaurant, it says proper hamburgers, proper beef burgers and proper hamburgers. Everyone's sitting there, they got no idea, but that's the material world. It's like we're playing with fire. People just don't know. So everyone's getting all types of reactions in this life and the next life. And that's one of the reasons that we have to that someone has to take birth again and again, because they commit so many wrong activities in this life that one life is not enough time to get all the reaction. So they have to take birth again to facilitate all the reactions of all the simple activities they actually did in their last life. And while they're doing that,
can I make an analogy? Can I make an analogy? I was just thinking, it's like you have rainy clothes, and the more bad things you do, the more holes you make in your rainy clothes. So let's say it's a person who does good things, he has his clothes, rainy clothes intact, so the water not gonna go inside to make them wet. But the more bad things you do, the more holes you're gonna get and the more wet you're gonna get. That depends what you have done.
That's an interesting example. Thank you, Madam Mangalpur. Nanda Vallabhi, Mother, you was just saying something there as well?
I was just going to say that why we remain ignorant of certain things is also part of our karma from previous lives, that we become ignorant and we are not given that knowledge at the right time. Is that right?
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt it's our karma. But if you read the third canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the teachings of Lord Kapila and the adverse fruitive activities, it's quite, it does mention there that just having a human form means you have responsibility to find out what is Dharma and what is Adharma. And if you don't, then you're going to have to get this, you're going to have to suffer the consequences. Just like when I was young, I was on a scooter on the motorbike, and I was a learner, and I had a friend on the back, and that's against the law. And I got pulled up by the police, and he told me what I was doing was against the law, and I pleaded ignorance to the law. Oh, I didn't know, officer. But I did know. I was lying, of course. Oh, I didn't know, officer. I didn't know that. And he said, ignorance, ignorance of the law doesn't mean you're not going to get prosecuted of the law. And he said, you have every right. He says, you have every right to remain silent, but I'm arresting you for la, 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 la. And I got fined and etc. So, I pleaded ignorance of the law, but he said, ignorance of the law does not mean you're not subject to the law. Yes. You understand? So that's why it's such a tragedy that people are not exposed to Vedic knowledge. I mean, at least they should be exposed to some type of religious regulation in life, whether it's Christianity or Judaism or Islam. At least persons should have something that they're governing, and they have to be living by some principles of Dharma, whether that's sub-religious principles or whatever. So that's why something should be there, So the point is, it's karma. So, but even if someone's karma is to be born in an atheistic family, okay, but still, it doesn't mean they're not gonna not get reactions because of not following base laws of Dharma. Dharma's quite a complicated subject, but that's why the Yamadutas are very knowledgeable about Dharma, except they wasn't completely knowledgeable about Dharma in relationship to Krishna. That's another whole subject that's spoken of in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I ask a question?
Nitai Mata. Yes, please. Yeah.
Prabhu, now you were speaking about any religion. I was just came to my thoughts. The Muslims, they think, okay, they just make it halal, and then they have it. So there is
I can see where we might be going.
Yeah, so they are in real problem because they are following a dharma.
Yeah. So
dharma
religion
is very, very dangerous. It's not helping human society at all.
Yeah. Now, actually, religious principles are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Can anyone tell us what the 4 religious principles given in the Srimad Bhagavatam are?
Oh, this is.
I'm asking because I can't recall them to mind myself. One is compassion. Another one is truthfulness,
austerity, cleanliness,
austerity, and cleanliness. Yeah,
cleanliness.
yeah. So this compassion, austerity, cleanliness, and truthfulness, these are the 4 legs of Dharma. So according to that degree that, say, Islam or Christianity is following these 4 principles, to that principle, they're actually following the universal laws of Dharma. So for instance, if you have some, Islam has this edit or this thing where they called halal meat. Now, it doesn't take much. I guess they're better than someone who's not following any Dharma, but would you say they're following the principle of compassion? No.
No, they're not.
No, they're not embracing.
Prabhu, their dharma is supporting them not to follow.
Yeah, but actually, that that could be questioned. That is, I mean, we would question that. That's what I'm saying. We would question their kind of understanding of Dharma if they're doing such things. Like, for instance, well, we could go further down the line where you have followers of Islam, as we know, killing and maiming people who are not of this, who are not following their specific religion. Now, would you say that was compassionate or not? It's obvious, isn't it? I mean, so these dharmic laws, so they will get reactions for that, no matter how much they're screaming this or Allah this. They're not actually following the universal principles of Dharma.
But what if they say that they are doing it for the good of humanity or animals? They are actually sending them or bringing them to the right place by doing whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you should spend some, I guess I don't know if I'm being too hard here, but you should spend a couple of days in a mental home and just see what people are saying. Do you take it seriously?
Okay.
No, they can say what they want, but we understand from the Bhagavatam and from the Vedas what is actually the principles of religion. They can say what they want, but the fact that they're killing innocent people, that they kill other Christians, we know what goes on, So we would question, actually, we want to be, it depends on who you're speaking to, but to get to this level of discussion with followers of Islam or others, then it might break down at some point. They just won't accept it. But we should be clear. We should be clear where we see them doing that. We should be clear that they're acting irreligiously. For us, it's very clear. No, these persons are not acting according to religion. Religion means compassion. Compassion is a principle. It's a religious principle, and that's why we don't eat meat. That's why we don't have things such as halal. For us to, can you imagine if we tried to, if we had that? Well, we don't. That type of thing where before, we eat meat, but we say Hare Krishna before it. No. It'd be hypocritical. Does that help, Nitai Mata? I don't know if so I'm bringing up for our understanding. So to us, like when we're looking at different religions and different processes of religion, etc., then we should judge them according to the four legs of religious principles that's given in the Bhagavatam.
Yeah, and I think these religions have come up because as per their conscious, they didn't have much, they were ignorant, so that's why these religions came up at that time, isn't it, Prabhu?
Yeah,
because they were not.
Yeah, but we're not going to really, we just want to, really for us, Prabhupada says in one place that we shouldn't unnecessarily criticize other processes of religion. Otherwise it just disturb our mind.
Yeah,
Purport, Prabhupada says. So we just want to encourage them. Okay, we're not going to really get into it with them. Why are you doing halal meat? Well, okay, praise the name of Allah. Pray 7 times a day or 5 times a day, I know the Prince was speaking of Islam now. I mean, I know some of as far as I understand, they have a thing about cleanliness. They profess to be quite clean, etc. So at least we should encourage them to be religious. And perhaps, it's something we won't probably bring up to them. Also, Prabhupada was quite fearless, wasn't he? He would, I don't know if, but at least to Christians, he would bring up about thou shalt not kill, and
yes.
then question them on it. So anyway, that's a big subject, I guess. But perhaps the principle we can take away is that this material world is everything we do, we're getting on the material platform. People are just getting entangled and entangled and entangled. So at least we have an understanding of how to act in this world. So at least we can slow those simple reactions down and eventually be free from them, especially by chanting the holy name. And be careful how we step in this life, that we don't get further entangled any more than we have to be. Anyway, perhaps we've done quite well so far. We've only on 2 verses, but it's good. Nice discussion. Someone else had a question there? Did I hear? All right. Should we read another verse or any other questions at all about this?
Can I say something a little bit? Sufi
Yes,
teaching,
please.
which is Muslim, they are not teaching to kill. They are not teaching to smoke. They are they are vegetarians. And
you've gone through the tube. You've gone through the Zoom tube. Your voice is breaking up.
Real Muslim teaching.
Yeah, okay, so there's an interesting thing that model.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can. So Model Mongo's bringing out here that there is actually one shoot off of Islam called the Sufis, and they follow, it seems like they following more the principles of Dharma that we understand, non-violence, vegetarian, etc. So that's interesting. Yeah, and there are some Christians as well. You'll find that, Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Can be a whole study on different religions and how they could do a whole different religions and how they stand up against the 4 principles of religion given in the Bhagavad Gita, given in Srimad Bhagavatam. All right, we have 5 minutes left. What should we do? Should we edge into another verse? Let's have a look at the purple. It's quite big. Perhaps I'll bring up a discussion here. Let's see where we go. What would you say if someone comes to you and they bring up the point of your religion is supposed to be peaceful, your Hare Krishna is supposed to be peaceful, but what's this book? It's all about a battle. And why did Krishna tell Arjuna to kill millions of people? How can you tell me that is religious? I thought you guys are supposed to be compassionate. Why did Krishna tell Arjuna to kill so many people? How is that compassionate? Say, when someone approaches and asks that. Nitai Mata, yes?
Purport, the last line explains that. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically.
But can you expand on that more? I mean, why is killing now a principle of religion? What has happened to make it? How is that?
Oh my God, that is all previously we were talking about.
Because showing those pastimes like that, everyone can take acknowledgement, they can learn from it. But actually, they are not the body, they are the soul, and they can live peacefully on the planet. And they can live dharmically.
And also, the punishment is required, as you did mention, Prabhu. If you don't get punished, and they're going to carry their karmas as well. And that is why even
Okay.
in a court of law, they say it's good that you get punished this life. If you,
Yeah. Okay. Carry on. Yeah.
so because Krishna is speaking about, he's talking about this reincarnation, involvement of karma there. That's what he's saying, principle of religion.
Okay. So I guess yeah, that's correct. I would say, but perhaps another way to put the question is, in what way is Arjuna upholding religious principles by killing?
With emotions, with the family attachments, all emotions,
Anybody?
family attachments.
Yeah, emotions. Okay. Anybody else can comment on this?
And also was a kshatriya, isn't it? So being a kshatriya, and he was emotional, it was not matching being a kshatriya and also emotional maybe. So he needed to fulfill his life.
Yeah, you could bring that up. He was a kshatriya and he was doing his duty. Yeah. So in that sense,
Death usually brings vairagya.
yeah, detachment. That in its sense brings detachment. Yeah. But actually, yes, please, Mobagaya, I think. Yeah.
I would say we're compassionate to innocent animals, and people are far away from innocent. They deserve to be punished for their crimes.
All right. So you're saying that like the Kauravas, because getting more to the point I wanted to bring out. Is that what you're saying, that the Kauravas needed to be punished according to what
Exactly.
they did?
Yes,
Yeah.
they were out of line. They were against Dharma.
Yeah. So they were culpable. Yeah. So yeah, that's more what I wanted to bring out, that it is we have to be careful how you present, how you might say this, but this battle of Kurukshetra, they were fighting to establish righteousness and Dharma. Especially that was overstepped, especially it was kind of, you could say, especially shown when they tried to disrobe Draupadi. That was kind of, that we could say that was a gross stepping over of Dharma. So Arjuna and the Pandavas, they're fighting against Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana and co, because they broke Dharma. And so Krishna is empowering the Pandavas to establish righteousness on the earth by following, because the Pandavas are dharmic, the Pandavas are religious, and they follow the Veda. So they are fighting to establish that. So therefore, their killing is based on the principle of religion, and it's not whimsical. Prabhupada say it wasn't whimsical like it is today. Anyway, all right, is that a bit more understood? So they're fighting so the Pandavas are fighting to establish Dharma, righteousness. They're fighting so that Yudhisthira, who is Dharmaraj, can actually be the king. So therefore, in that sense, it is a religious war. All right. Right. It's nice discussion. Today we covered 2 verses. It's nice. It's always a good sign in one sense. It means we had some nice discussion about these principles. But thank you for joining us. And tomorrow we have, where are we? We're on Wednesday.
Brilliant.
Today is Wednesday. Yeah, so tomorrow, if you like, please join us if you can. We have Bhagavad Gita. And please excuse us, we forgot to tape the last one. But tomorrow we're going to be finishing this volume that we're reading, because I checked after last week. We've only got 4 or 5 verses left. So quite exciting. I saw we've had 30 hours of reading this so far, 30 reading sessions and discussion. So tomorrow we're going to be finishing Brihat Bhagavatamrita part 1, and then we're going to part 2. So if you can spare the time, please join us again from 6 till 7. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and wish you well. Look forward next time. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vantikam
Thank you,
Vibhuta Kripa Sinivivata Prinam Padmibhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.